Kum len a blat gemara. Erev Shabbos Daf Pei Vav Omed Aleph. So we're going to go back to what we introduced yesterday, what Shmuel said, and that is Gufa. Shmuel said that if Reuven owes money to Shimon, and Shimon unsells that contract to Levi properly, so Reuven owes $100 to Shimon. Shimon he needs the money desperately straight away, even though the debt hasn't matured yet. So he will unsell it, let's say for 90 cents a dollar. He sells it for $90. So now it belongs to Levi. If Shimon, the lender, now turns around to Reuven and forgoes the shtar, if he gives him the debt, then Levi has nothing to collect. Now, why does Shimon have that right if he already unsold the debt to Levi? So we have two opinions in the Rishonim. I guess one opinion is that mechiras shtaris is the rabbanon, the ability, the capacity to sell a shtar, because you're not really selling anything; you're selling what a piece of paper represents. There's nothing tangible here. So that concept of acquisition is only with the rabbanon. So Mahatayra, who does Reuven still owe the money to Shimon? The rabbanon, he owes it now to Levi. So therefore, if Shimon turns around and pardons Reuven, he has the right, because Mahatayra, it's still his debt. And once he pardoned Reuven owes nothing. There's nothing left to pay Levi. That's one way of learning. Others learn Mechira Shtar is Daraisa, that selling a shtar is Mahatayra, and therefore they say the pshat is that when every time you borrow money, I'm indebted to you, and there's two different on different planes. One is Shibud Haguf, and one is Shibud of the Mammon, or the Chasim. Shibud Haguf is, I now owe you money. Shibud Chasim, there's a lien on all my assets to pay that debt. All the Chasim person are even left. All the Chasim person are guarantors for himself. What can I unsell? I can unsell to Levi only the shibud on the chasim. That's something tangible. The chasim are here, but I cannot sell my personal shibud that I have a chiyuv. This guy has a chiyuv to me. I cannot unsell that. That's a personal thing. It's not something that's transferable. So but the way it works is because you have a shibud haguf, therefore you have a shibud on the chasim. Because you personally owe the money, therefore all your chasim are even more guarantors for yourself. So I can unsell the shibud on the property, but I cannot unsell the shibud haguf that you have to me. As a result of that, Levi bought the shibud on the chasim. So if Shimon turns around and is meichel the chayv, which is the shibud haguf, then automatically the shibud of the chasim falls away, because the shibud chasim are merely guarantors to the shibud haguf. But that disappears, all that disappears. And the new thing that we learned yesterday was that not only that person can be meichel, but his heirs, the lender's heirs, can also be meichel, except in the case of a wife and who is unsold Kesuvos to her husband, that her husband and her are partners now. So she's not unselling it to her husband. When she brings into marriage, they became partners, and therefore she cannot sell unilaterally because she has to have her partner's consent. So now the moral analyzes. Shmuel 5 lines at top. Shmuel said, even the heir can also be meichel. If the buyer, Levi, is smart, what he should do is mekarkish lezuzi, shake a few coins in front of Reuven, the buyer, because they started b'shmei, and he tells Reuven, Reuven, you owe money to Shimon. Let's write a contract now that you owe money to me, and therefore, and if Shimon decides to be meichel, you still owe me the money, the debt. You can't be meichel the debt that you say to me. Why would what's the incentive Reuven have? Because let's say the loan's for $100. This guy bought it for $80. He takes $10, gives it to Reuven, and says, Reuven, you have to pay anyway. Either to me, the chances of him being meichel are slim. And as we'll soon see why they're slim. And therefore, I'm going to give you $10 discount. So instead of $100, you owe me $90, and let's write me a new shtar. But I want to activate it. I'd rather use the old shtar, because then it gives me the right, if you don't have any money, I can go to your property that you sold from that date. If we write a new shtar and we have to activate the new shtar, the lender loses out. He cannot go to any of the assets only from that day and onwards. But that's how he can get around it. Now we have an interesting question. Okay, so the lender turned around as meichel the borrower, so the buyer now is left with a piece of paper. Can the buyer now turn around to the lender and sue him? You sold me something, you sold me a dud. You sold me, and then you turn around and you're meichel, or not. So we have a concept called dina de garmi. According to many Rishonim, not everyone, according to many Rishonim, there's garmi and there's groma. Garmi and both of them means causes, but groma is sort of indirect and garmi is direct. So in this case over here, he turned around and they took the star that's worth represents a loan of $100, and he was meichlet. So he caused the guy directly a cause. It wasn't an indirect. This is called garmi, and by garmi we generally say that we're machmed at garmi yechayev. Was a machlek is actually garmi yechayev, and Amei and others, and Allah is like garmi yechayev, and then the Rama bin Zikin generally we say you are potter. Rashi clearly makes no distinction, and other Rishonim make no distinction. Garmi and Grum, it's all the same. They all come under the same umbrella. Direct or indirect, the machlek is whether you're responsible or not. But many Rishonim hold that Garmi and Grum are two different things. So the question is, can Levi, the buyer, turn around to the lender and sue him for being meichel? The Gemara says as follows. I remember. The one who said there is a din of you can turn around and collect compensation from the lender. But the one who holds you don't judge din is a all you can do is collect a piece of paper, the value of the paper. In other words, it's either an expression which means you collect nothing, as Rashi says, because they already have the paper in my hand, or others say, well, the paper had some value, now it has nothing, you owe me at least for a piece of paper. There was a story of something that happened. The kafir Rafram like bombarded Rav Ashi with all kinds of proofs that the halacha should be like Rameya, that that this lender did the wrong thing, and therefore he should reimburse the buyer. And he went ahead and he collected him. He collected him like you buy beams to draw things in it. You want to make sure that everything is perfect, everything is smooth. Over here also you sell. It's just an expression, but you sold a star. You have to make sure that it's effective. Maybe said in the name of Chamba, let's say a person has a few debts. The question is, how do you work out who gets first? One has a ksuva, you have a ksuva wife, and you have a balchayv, you have a lender, you have a ksuva wife, and the isla you have land and you have money. What do you pay to who? So the balchayv, the Gemara says, rightfully to the lender, you should pay back with money because he lent you money, you pay back. That's what he gave you. And the woman, we even learned that the woman relies on his property, on his assets long term. So therefore, you pay her off with ara. Very good. Each one you give what they entitled to. You only have one piece of land. Oh, you have one piece of land, you have the money, what do you do? Who do you pay it off to the lender or to the ksuba? And Rashi said, we're talking about they're both written on the same day, because otherwise, we learned before already, when we said whoever was written last, whichever one was written last, it doesn't get the first chance. Only the dates, the earlier date are the one who have the rights to it, and the next date, it's only if anything left over, they get that as well. So we're talking about they're all written on the same day. We don't go by hours, by day. They're all written on the same day. So what happens then? So the balchayv, we give it to the balchayv, but we don't give it to the woman. And why is that? We only want property pay off the lender. My timer. We are, even though we already said before that we go out of our way to try to please women to make sure they want to get married and so on and so forth. But in this case here, we're more worried about the lender. There is a chance that some women will say, nevertheless, I'm prepared to get married, but a lender, all the lenders is going to freeze the loans. Nobody's going to lend money anymore if they find out that every other debt takes precedence over theirs. Why would they lend money for no reason? They have no benefit. You can't charge interest. They're purely doing the guy a favor, and now you're making it so that I can't get paid back. So why would I lend? I'm saying a woman has a benefit from getting married, apart from the ksuba is not the only thing on her mind. The ksuba is only chas v'shalom if things don't work out. The marriage itself is the main thing that she wants. So therefore, that's different, and that she's prepared to do. I'm not a popular in this circumstance. I'm not a popular. A papa turned around to Chum and he said, "Tell me, is it true what they say in the name of that you said the name of Rabbi that high man the masculine beisuzi somebody's owed money the Isle Ara the Isle Ara and this guy has land. People lend him money and he has a piece of land, but also balchayv and the lender comes over to him wants to collect, but a katav and he wants to get paid reimbursed. But he said to him, because we just said before that the lender gets paid with money. This guy doesn't have any cash. He tells the lender, Zil shkoil ma'ara. It's your problem. Take the land, you sell it and turn it into cash. I'm not Zil zovin at ba'aise. Go ahead. Go ahead and sell it and you make your money. Ba'aise havle. So is it true that we said that? So he said In other words, no, it's the other way around. The other way around. The borrower says to the lender, I have a piece of land. So we tell the borrower, you sell the land. We tell the borrower, Zil's over that, you sell it, but I said, how they go get money? Because since we said before you have to pay the lender with money, all you have is land. You turn it around, you sell it and turn it into money, convert it to money, and give that to the lender. That's difficult to understand because the lender will be very happy to have land. In fact, that's what shibud is. He wants to be sure this security before he lends. He wants to make sure you have assets. They always ask you what gives you your liability and your assets. We know what you're worth. So he said, I never said that. So what exactly happened? Why did people misinterpret what happened? He said, I'll tell you what happened. The case that this happened to that Rabbi ruled that way was because this borrower, we knew that he had cash. What he was saying was that all this cash that you see over here, it belongs to that guy. I'm holding it and mining for that guy, and we knew he was lying. So therefore, we said in that case, okay, we'll penalize you, convert your land into cash, and this way maybe we'll come forward and he'll just give him the cash that he has sitting there. Otherwise, of course, we wouldn't force. So Taisha says basically the different laws on how you pay back. Taisha says that to every lender, you always try to pay back with money. And if the lender wants money instead of karka, you can't just pay him over with karka. No, it's up to the lender. If the lender says, I'm happy to have karka, fine. But otherwise, you give him money. And when it comes to a nizik, if you damaged somebody and you have to reimburse him, then the law is you always give karka. We'll see in the beginning of Kama. Over there, the law is you always give the meitav sadeh, you got to pay him. Idius, you cannot force him to take cash. A lender, you can force him to take cash. He cannot force you to give him your properties. You can pay him off. Could he lend you money? You give him back money. When you cause someone damage, the Torah says that you have to pay back. Ideally, the restitution is with property. If you don't have it, then you pay money. And when it comes to an employee, even if you have no money, we'll tell the borrower you have to sell the land to the money. He's not interested. You have to be able to pay him his wages in cash, not with some other substitutes. Tells you more further. According to you, the Amid that you say, Priyas Balchayv mitzvah, you say that paying off Balchayv is a mitzvah. We have a whole discussion there about if you collect from your same your father's, their father's debts or not. And a papa. And a papa says that Priyas Balchayv is a mitzvah, and Yasmer and Ketanim Allah b'nei mitzvah. You cannot go and force them to pay the father's debts because it's only a mitzvah and they don't have a mitzvah to pay. And the other Ravuna hold is not a mitzvah. They said a month and a half ago so that paying off a chayv is a logical thing. It's logic. It doesn't say anywhere in the Torah you have to pay back your loans because it's obvious you have to pay back. It's not your money, so you have to pay it back. And a papa says it's a mitzvah. There's a famous question that the world asks. We know that when it comes to mitzvah, you're not supposed to spend more than a third of your money or more than a fifth. Which actually in Shulchan talks about that when it comes to mitzvah, say you don't spend more than a fifth of your assets. When it comes to loisa, to avoid it, you have to spend all your money. But for mitzvah, say how much did you spend? No more than a fifth. And Mr. Runichas talks about if you don't have any money to buy film, what happens? So the question is, since you don't spend for a mitzvah more than a fifth, if I borrow money for somebody and it's equal to half of my assets, I shouldn't have to pay you. But Papa says that paying back a loan is merely a mitzvah. And by a rule, we have a rule by a mitzvah, you don't pay back more than a fifth of your assets. So if you owe more to anybody, the fifth of your assets, you should be part from paying. Only paid up to the fifth of your assets. Reb Chaim Brisker used to ask this question, and to his Bachman wanted to enter yeshiva, and he would answer, when is there we say mitzvah has a cap of a fifth. It's your money. Don't spend from your own money more than a fifth. But this is his money, the lender's money, it's sitting by you, but it's his money, and therefore there's no cap because it's not your money. Anyway, so the answer to the question as follows. Since it's only a mitzvah, the guy says, I don't want to do the mitzvah, I'll go to Gehenna. Fair enough. I don't want to do the mitzvah. What happens then? Amalei is a very important Gemara. Amalei Tanina, we actually learned. The Gemara says, when do we say the mitzvah when it comes to a negative mitzvah, why do we give 39 lashes after the event? Avol the mitzvahs say. A mitzvah say you don't get punished after if you didn't put on tefillin today, nobody's going to give you malchus afterwards, even if you're warned. But if you tell him to do someone to do a mitzvah, he doesn't do it. You before he's over in the mitzvah, you keep on beating him up until he dies. literally. And so in a way, a mitzvah asay is stricter than a loisasa because by a loisasa we have a cap, 39 malchus, we get a medico to check them out before that, make sure you can get in multiples of 50, what number, what maximum you can take. When it comes to mitzvah asay, you keep on being there. They don't want to put on film, they don't want to sit in the sukkah, they don't want to bench luch. You keep on being them until eventually they will do the mitzvah. Interestingly, two examples the mitzvah asay gives is sukkah and lulav. Is makkah to take nafsh. The big machlek is right in between Choshen Mishpat, Tzeitzah Choshen, and Sivis, whether the mitzvah applies today or not. In other words, is this a mitzvah on a bezin, and therefore the people who do it are representing the bezin, whoever you are, or is this a mitzvah that devolves on every individual that we're responsible for each other, so we have to make sure that they do their mitzvahs. And the nafkamin is that this applies today. That's why all the muftzayim, getting people to bench lulav and esrog and all that, and all this is actually saving them. Because minhadin, according to one of them, minhadin, you would have to actually beat them until they do the mitzvah. And now we're doing it in a nice way. So interesting machlek. Studying more further. Let's say a man says to a wife, "This is the get, but like his guy, I don't want to become effective. For whatever reason, I don't want it to become activated in another 30 days. He left, and he placed it somewhere on the side streets, somewhere near the wall, and hopefully nobody's going to take it from there. And come day number 30, is she divorced or not? Amalei, he said, she's not divorced. Why not? But Rav Shmuel. Now then we had an argument before. We had this 2 days ago. Rav Yechanan or Rav Shmuel. Her father died and left behind some assets, and he did not give it over. It wasn't in his house. Didn't give it over to the Yoshim. And then we had a discussion of Rav Akiva whether the lender or the tzuvah can collect. The woman can go ahead and pay for it and grab a hold of it. And we asked the question: where was it sitting that the Yisayim don't have access to it? So Rav Shmuel says only in the Shusar Rabbim. And Rish Lakish, Rabbi Shmuel says that in the Shus Rabbim, and Rish Lakish says in a simta that if even on a side street the children are not kaina. So we're saying that according to Rabbi Shmuel, they say in the Shus Rabbim it's you're not kaina. You say you're not kaina. Same thing here. The get is not in her rishus; it's out in the middle of nowhere, middle of Shus Rabbim. Therefore, she's not divorced. She has to physically go ahead, get it, and get a hold of the get. When do we say that the Yisayim do not yashin if it's sitting out there in a public space? And my argument is that this is the side of a Shus Rabbim. It's right next to the Shus Rabbim. It's right next to the wall that people move to the side a little bit to take for a reprieve. Is the Shus Rabbim? It's like a Shus Rabbim. It's part of the street, but it's the very end of the street, the width of the street. So on the contrary, why don't we say Mugaresha, she is divorced based on what Rav Nachman said? Rav Nachman, we had this a few days ago as well. Rav Nachman is the name of Rav friend, I want you to go ahead and draw this cow. So schlep this cow, which means this is the kinyan called Mashiach. Like do the kinyan today, but I don't want to be yours for another 30 days. He's kaina filo emeded ba'agam. Even if the cow is out there in the swamp, he's kaina. So the same thing here. Since he presented her with a get, and then he said, I don't want you to be divorced with this for another 30 days. Doesn't matter where it is, she should be divorced. And we said before, because if he could have been kinder right now, he could have given it a get right now, they activated straight away. So therefore, it works. My love, hainu agam, hainu sharab. The most question here is a swamp is and it's more or less the same because it's not the public place. Was it lie? Agam l'chud sharab l'chud. No, how can you be the two? Agam, basically in a swamp, very few people hang around. Tzidna Shus Rabbim is mamish part of the main street, and it's like the service lane away, part of the main street. But people don't usually go too close to the end of the street because there's a wall that they don't want to, ruin their clothing and everything else. So people don't go to that corner. So, but it's much more, publicly used than an agam. So that's the same thing. Agam, the cow would be kind, but a get in the Shus Rabbim not kind. That's one version. Another version is Amalei Mugaresha is Rab Nachman. On the contrary, he said she should be divorced from Rab Nachman and just like a swamp, kind of the cow 3 days later. So to Shizram, you kind of they get 3 days later. So Gemara says Adarabbe Mugaresha is not divorced, but Rav Shmuel Adarabbe should not be considered divorced. Why? Based on Rav Shmuel, who said that if it's a Shus Rabbim, it's you're not kind of Shizram, just like Shus Rabbim. My love, Hein Shizram, Hein Shus Rabbim. So we're like, no, Shus Rabbim l'chud with Tzidus l'chud. Here the Gemara concludes just the opposite, that a Tzidus Shus Rabbim does not have the status of a Shus Rabbim, and therefore it's a valid get. Even though Rish Lakish and Rav Yechanan clearly said before that we look at it as a symptom, and usually the halacha of Yochanan Shlakish here we follow Rabbi Shmuel. Yeah, talking about it further. Mishnah. Let's say he appoints his wife should run their business, the store, or he made her an executive of the state, so she's an overseer of the state. He can make her swear whenever he wants. He can make her swear whenever he wants. If we'll soon see what we're talking about, what the shul is. If he doesn't trust her, if he wants to make sure she didn't, pocket any money, and so on. It doesn't have to only swear about the business. He can make a swear a pilcha and isasa on the sewing part or on the dough in the house. He can always make a swear. Did you use all the money that I gave you spending money for food and so on? Says the Gemara, Rabbi what's Rabbi saying? Is he saying lechatchila? You can say to your wife, well, I gave you money to buy needs for the home. I want you to swear that you used every penny that I gave you for that and not for other things. Or Rabbi is saying Gilgul Shvur. Gilgul Shvur is a concept we have about Mitzir, like other places where once I give you one Shvur, once I could never make you swear for this thing, but once I make you swear for something legitimately I can make you swear, I can then take it from there and move it on to something else. That's called Gilgul Shvur. So once I make you swear about the store, the business, whether you actually, are honest and everything else, I can then throw on it another shvur. What about at home? Which one is it? It says in the Brayso, how can you allow? How can you allow the husband make us swear about mundane things in the house? Then how can she live in such a household where the husband doesn't trust her? You can't live with a snake in the same cage. Now, if you say that he's in Chatchila, you can just throw shvuas at her the shop. It's impossible to live together. If you're telling me that the only way he can make a swear is if he has another shvua, which is rightfully so, and then he can add this on, then my nafkala mean anyway she's swearing. If she's swearing anyway about the business, what's the big deal? She makes just one more shvua and says, "Look, I'm honest at home as well." So the mother says, "No." That's irrelevant. When it comes to the business, it's a perfectly legitimate thing to say, make sure that everything she does is correct. Because people, have all that money in front of them. Who knows what they, people have can be tempted to do other things. But even though the shvu about things at home was just added on, the mere fact that he's not trusting her at home ruins the whole shalom bayis. She says to him, "Even the kadayek basrei kulaha, you're so pedantic and you are so particular in the house, and you don't trust me. How can I live together with you?" So it proves no, it doesn't prove one way or another. We don't know what Rabbi Lezer is actually saying. Here, let's say he did not exempt his wife from a neder or from a shvu. He did not say to her, we'll see in the next Mishnah, that I will never make you swear anything else. Didn't make that exemption at all in the agreement when they got married. And and he set her up as to run the store or to run the whole business. He can make her swear whenever he desires so. What about loy hashiva chenminus? What happened? He never set her up in business or run the store. Then he has no right to make her swear at all, anything. Rabbi Lezer says, even though he didn't set up a business, he can make a swear whenever he wants. That we don't, because every woman is given some discretion and control, at least al pilchav al isasa. Running the house definitely gives her control. So therefore, he has a right to get her to swear. Tell me what happened. And the rabbi said, no, it isn't fair. A person cannot live with a snake in the same cage. Clear for me, she's not running a business, she's not doing anything else. Yet the rabbi says you can make her swear about matters in the house. No, you can make her swear. And the rabbis say you can't live a life like that. It's not called living. Okay, so my next Mishnah, now that we mentioned this idea of saying I don't want to make any shvuas, the Mishnah spells it out. Cost of law, he wrote to her neder, he wrote to her that any neder, let's say ainli alecha, I have no nedarim over you. Before they got married, he says neder and shvur, I have no control over whatever you decide to do. Ein yochel lashbeh, cannot make her swear what? We'll soon see. A neder is, for example, she says that I will not eat any fruits at all if you hold back something from me. That's a neder that she makes. And he says to her that I'm not going to undo any Yunadar. I will, so he cannot make a swear, but Mashbiyahu as Yosher, if she dies, he can make the what do you call it, the children swear whatever it is that he wants them to swear. We'll see the Gemara what. As Aboyim B'Shusa, and all those who come into, in other words, for example, if he divorced her or if she died, and now the Yosher comes and say, pay us out to Ksuba. And he said he won't make them, won't ever make a shua. But the children, he has every right to say to them, swear that your mother didn't already give you money from the ksuba, and then you can go ahead and collect. So the Gemara, what happens? He says the following, and Boyim Meshusha means if she unsold the ksuba, let's say, he never promised that he won't make them swear, so he can make them swear, make sure that you never collected the ksuba yet before, and that I didn't pay her out, and so on. What about, he said, Neder Shvua, Eini Lecha, not on you, Ba'al Yishecha, nor on your ears, nor if you sell to somebody, will never make them swear. So then Taka, he can never make a swear. If she dies or divorced and now they're coming to collect the ksuba, he cannot make any of them swear that they didn't collect yet. Lo he, not her, lo Yasher, not her ears, nor those who come into her rishus. Abul Yer Shav, but those who, let's say he died, his heirs, he never made a promise that his heirs won't demand a shua, and they can. Abul Yershav, they have every right. Because nobody stopped them. They can make her swear to Yasher and her heirs, it's Abayim Bashusa and all those that she sold it to. They can make them swear. So if she became a widow, so they have to swear that they didn't get paid yet from their late father. What happens if he says Neder Shua Ein Li? I will not make you swear. Not to my ears, and not if I unsell all my assets. I'm gonna nobody. Then if you come with the ksuba, nobody's gonna make you swear. Alecha, not on you, not on your ears, and all those come afterwards. Any he cannot make them swear. Who? Not him. And not his ears. And not those he unsold to. None of his ears to her ears. Okay, what happens? Let's say you said she's not to swear, and she went mikaver from after burying her. She went bailo after burying her husband. She went lebei severe back to her family. She no longer did any more business for her original family. She went back to her parents. Or she went to her in-laws. She no longer got involved in the business. She was no longer apatrufas. Ein hayoshin mashbiin asa. They cannot make her swear about anything. The im nasis apatrufaya, but if she, let's say, continued running the business, or she became now an executive of the state and she's running all the businesses after her husband died, then hayoshin, we're talking about a case here where the husband clearly said that I will not make you swear. And now after he died. So if she become now putra hayoshim mashbiin oisa, they have a right to make her swear, because the husband has no right to talk about what happens post his death, about future events. So they can make her swear that she's continuing the business. They can make her swear that you're honest, you didn't take anything yourself. But Allah osid love the ain't mashbiin mashaba. They cannot make her swear on the past that you never cheat or anything else, even through a gilgal shvur, because the husband clearly stipulated that he will not ever ask her to make a shvur in the past. Just quickly, what's a shvur? What's the shvur we're talking about? You're saying here that the husband can say you don't have to swear. What's the general shvur between a wife and a husband that we're talking about? That if he wouldn't have exempted her, she would have to swear, but now that exempted, he doesn't. We have two opinions. Ala putrufaya, we're talking about if she's running a business for her husband, shenasis b'chaya baila, and that she was doing while the husband was alive, and he has every right to say to her, like a business partner, you have a right to say to swear that you didn't take any, you didn't take any money for yourself, and convincing yourself that you're allowed to, and that's what he can make her swear. And then he said, but he stipulated clearly, you can run the business, and I'm never going to ask you to swear for me. And Rab Nachman said that if, let's say, the din is if the ksuba is $200, she says you paid me already 50, you still owe me 150. Once she reduced the amount of the ksuba, and he says no, I paid you the whole amount, whatever it is, she has to swear that you still owe me the 150. So according to the one who says that it's an apotrufus, would not agree that exempted her, would not agree that pagemus was exempt. Because when the husband said that I'm stipulating that you don't have to swear, it was only about those kind of vows between me and you, and that I'm creating because I put you in the business. I'm not going to make you swear. But when you come to me and you say that I paid you only a certain percentage of the ksuva, you're the one who started, you're the one who created the need for a shvur, then you still have to swear. Comes along the Nachman and says, no, any shvur is included. It doesn't matter who initiated or who caused the shvur, who's the trigger, it doesn't matter. In no case, you're potter. He repeated this thing for Ravashi. I understand the one who said that what kind of shvur we're talking about, where she reduced the amount on the ksuva, and that's what the husband meant, that you'll never have to swear. I understand. Every woman knows there's a possibility of having a ksuva, strong possibility they get divorced, or if he predeceases her. So therefore, she makes sure that he says we'll never make you swear, and so on and so forth. Fine. The maska daita, because she thinks to herself, why tack? What do you mean $50 is paid? She needs money urgently, so she says, husband, pay me out part of my ksuva. Now, I need the money now. Dilma mistarchelis was maybe needs money to marry off a daughter more than what the husband gave. We should kill them or for other children she had. And if I want to take my ksuva, fine, that makes sense. You can anticipate that, and therefore they agree that he won't make her swear if he gives a part pay down of the ksuva. He's not going to make her swear in the balance. If I'm like Savely, write to me, I want you to write to me before we get married that you're not going to make me swear on the balance. But the other one said that he put her in business. How did she know when she got engaged to him that one day she'll be running all the businesses, and then therefore she said, make sure that you don't have to swear? Who told her that she's running the businesses? How did she know the Moisla Putrafaya? How did she know that she will be appointed as executive, or the one who's in charge of all the businesses, the Omrali that she should say to him, I want you to write a contract, he won't make me swear. So therefore, he wants to know what does it mean. So actually, we'll stop over here because they won't be going any further than that. So